Yeah, nobody cares. We could take a month off. That's what I was saying. We should have just taken June off. There's not any really new good movies and whatever. They don't care.
They care. Gotta keep going. Gotta keep going. We've come too far.
I guess we have to keep going. I mean, we love it. So rewarding being here on the Bluff Council.
All right, so fuck it. Let's just hang it up. Let's just hang it up. It
doesn't take much to push Keith.
Well, why are we even doing this? No, fuck it. You're right. I give up. This is stupid, and life is stupid. There is no point. There's no point to existence. Where's my gun?
So this is Hail to the Queen, girls, girls, girls. All I really want is girls. Da, 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 da. That's probably not appropriate.
That's not the right one.
That's not the point. That's not the point of this playlist.
No. It's more who run the world.
Who run the world? Sigourney Weaver, motherfuckers.
Get away from her, you bitch!
You talk about amazing and strong and resilient protagonists, male or female. Ripley, as played by Sigourney Weaver, has to be near the top of any list. She is a great, strong, wonderful character, and Alien, her first appearance. Generally considered a classic, so we're happy to be discussing it. This is sort of adjacent to being a viewer recommendation. Our good friend Richie threw it at us again. Thankfully, didn't make a video this time, so we don't have to actually look at him or interact with him at all, which is good. I think it's better for everyone.
Generally.
Richie has consistently, I think, been someone who is kind of anti-woman, and
mainly.
Do you agree or do you disagree with that, Richie?
Yeah, could definitely be viewed that way.
Interesting choice, Richie.
Rich. God.
Very.
We apologize for him.
Yeah.
But anyways, enough about Richie. Let's talk about Alien. Keith.
Yes.
What did you think of this first time that you've watched Alien?
Of course, this is the first time I've watched Alien.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. Everyone, Everett, Richie, I want this to be a safe space. I want it to be a safe space because here's what I would like. I want the opportunity. Fix your face. Fix your goddamn face.
I just know where this is going.
No, you don't know where it's going. You don't know where it's going. This is twists and turns. It's storytelling. I want the space to be able to ask questions. That is all I want. I want the opportunity to ask questions and have a dialogue.
We're going to start a dialogue
about this film. That's all. That is all I want. I don't want any of what I'm about to say to be misconstrued as blatant criticism. Because that is not the case. I do not dislike this film. I do not think
endorsement.
This is a bad film. I don't think this is a bad film. I think it's a good film. I think there are a lot of A-level things. There are a lot of top-notch things, craft. We can get into it, which I'd like to get into it. But I also have questions. And this movie makes me think about things that I want to discuss that is going to make it sound like I hate the film. Like I think the film's trash, and it's stupid, and that is not the case. So I just want to put it out front.
Just put it out there.
Put it out there.
Just put it out there.
I respect this film. I respect the directing. All of that shit. But I just want to be able to talk about it freely. Is that fair? Is that a fair thing to say before these monsters fucking kill me in the comments?
I'm so excited. Yes, of course, Keith. We can always ask questions. Though I don't want to be held the same way Keith doesn't want to be held responsible.
We're just trying to pass responsibility.
I do not want it to be my responsibility to accurately and thoroughly defend this film. I am not a historian of horror films or science fiction films or of Alien in general. I will do my best to respond, but I honestly encourage those of you, because this film is a beloved film.
A beloved film,
by
and I'm
many,
aware
many-
of that.
Many passionate people, and those of you who are much smarter than both Keith and I on this subject, please answer some of Keith's questions if I fail, which I may.
Great.
Keith, what do you think?
This movie is
going to be
fucking
like,
garbage.
Why does everyone like this movie?
Like, what's there to even like about it? It's pretty
What's the big
stupid.
deal?
Aliens aren't real. I mean, they're actually very real. Don't we have like footage?
60 Minutes did a special last week.
There's nothing we could build that would be strong enough to endure that amount of force and acceleration.
Yeah, they're like, they're here. They're here. They're ready to go.
They've been here.
Do you want to start? Do you want to say, do you want to get off to a good start, a good positive? Talk about the positive things, the things that you love. You talked about Sigourney Weaver. I do agree with Sigourney Weaver and this character, Ripley, being an iconic character, an amazing performance. I could point to some specifics where I thought she did an excellent job. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll just do the brief background. For me, I really like this movie, but to me, it's more of like, maybe sort of to what you're alluding to, I like it a lot, but I respect it more than I like it.
Great. This is a great starting point. This is a great starting point. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. I enjoy the film. I know this makes me lesser than, but I've always been more of an Aliens guy, the sequel. Which is I think a pretty universally adored film as well for different reasons. Alien, 1979, directed by Ridley Scott, considered a huge moment, I think, in the worlds of science fiction and horror almost a little bit too, combined. Really dark, really adult, really violent, gritty sci-fi. I think anyone who loves science fiction films in particular will have this movie in their top three across the board. As a kid, I was introduced to the sequel first, directed by James Cameron, no slouch himself.
A little slouchy.
And which is, what's that?
A little slouchy.
Oh, I mean, slouched lately. No one wants more Avatar, James. Jesus Christ.
They're working
We can
on
do
6
some
of them
other
right
stuff.
now. 15 years later, we're going to do 6 of them. It's come out in 6
15
days.
years later, we're all pining for 7 sequels to Avatar. Like,
Sorry.
do something else. It's fine.
Yeah. Do another Titanic. Try that one.
So I loved Aliens because it was action-packed, and it's funny and it's quippy, and you got Bill Paxton being great. It's a great time. Alien is like the slower, almost like darker, older brother that like the art house people loved, and so that was my past. I watched Alien a couple of times in my life, not that many. I've probably seen Aliens 40, 50, 60 times. Alien, I probably only watched once or twice. So this was like a pretty, I went into this pretty much like, I don't remember the specifics. I remember some major scenes. I remember the fucking creature coming out of the guy's chest. You'll never forget that.
You'll never
No one
forget
will.
that.
That is one of the 3 to 5 most memorable scenes of all time, honestly, in cinema. I really think that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy this film, but looking back on it now, 42 years later or whatever, it's most of my enjoyment of it is out of respect for what I know for its greatness. Like I know what it's doing, and I know how transformative it was to several genres, not to mention movie making as a whole. So it's great in that way. It's not the most enjoyable rewatch over and over again.
It's a conversation that I think we were touching on, the difference of appreciating the film for its magnitude at the time versus how film has evolved over time to now where it is now. This I think is in that world and harder to decipher based on how film has evolved, and you could say it's evolved for the worst. I'm not arguing for today
it's
is
absolutely devolved.
devolve then, if that's the right term to use, like evolved or devolved. Like that's not the argument I'm making. I'm just thinking 40 something years ago is very different, but at the time this was a massive accomplishment for many reasons. And so I appreciate it for those reasons, because it deserves that credit for that time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. I agree with your general statement about these sort of things. I don't completely agree in the sense that, and maybe you're not saying this, but like I think Alien and a lot of older films, you know, pre-80s, pre-70s, can still be very good to watch. So I don't want it to come across as I'm like, yeah, Alien, it's okay, but really I respect it for its greatness at the time. I think greatness is greatness, and I think that you watch Alien today and it's still a great film. What you don't get is maybe that excitement that you would have had in 1979, seeing something that you've never seen before,
yes,
that no one has ever seen before.
Yes,
that cannot be recreated, but it's still a great film on its own.
Yes, I think it is a very good film on its own today. I think it is a very well-made film, and there are a lot of great things about it. But the greatness of it, I think, is directly related to the time it came out, and being
that's incorrect.
You don't think so? You don't think its level of greatness is tied to it being sort of revolution, maybe too strong of a word, but so impactful in 1979. You don't think those two are connected?
I think its level of greatness can be tied to that, but I think to say its greatness is tied to that is what I take issue with. It is a great film regardless of when it came out because of its, I would say, like its cinematography and its story structure and its performances and all that stuff is great.
Okay, well this is where we can begin to discuss. I don't even want to, I'm so nervous. I think we can begin to discuss. I don't know if you just want to jump right in. I don't know. I'm just so hesitant to jump into this water.
Keith, we depend on you to have the bad takes.
The bad takes.
We need it.
Okay, well then I'm just going to do it. But later we'll talk about things I like. Because there's a lot. There is a lot to say that this film does well, and I do sincerely believe that. We'll get to it. My biggest question is within the story. The issue that the question that I have in terms of storytelling, which is something that we've had a handful of times, we just had one of our most recent episodes. This is something you have to sit with. This is a film that you have to sit with, and for, I want to say, at least an hour 15, nothing's really happening. I don't think that that's debatable. Like, there is no sense of urgency. There is no level of impending doom. There is no danger. There is an element of suspense.
Well, yeah, but isn't that sort of impending doom a little bit?
But no cause within the story. How it's directed, how it's shot, I want to say like the texture of the film, the set design is outstanding. Well, we can talk about that too in a little bit, which is again one of the A-level things. The ship itself is like a character, and it's now these narrow hallways create these like tight spaces. You're in the middle of space, no one can hear you scream, sort of thing to it. Like that creates the suspense, not what's actually happening within the story. Nothing. There is not even a sense of danger within their conversation until two people die. Not the first person, the second person has to die for there to be real cause of like, oh shit. So there is this real gradual build to where that final scene is like the fucking countdown and the, oh my, it's like, this thing's coming, it's breathing down my neck, where are we? I gotta get off this ship, it's gonna split. And that's probably by design. That's probably a very calculated decision to this very, very long and slow build to this epic ending. Mm-hmm. But for over 50% of the film, nothing is driving the film forward.
You say the film is building, and it does a good job of building throughout this gradual ramp up of suspense to this last thing with the timer going and chaos. But you also say nothing's happening and it's not like doing anything, like nothing happens. So that to me is kind of at odds. Because if it's building slowly and you think that, then naturally it's doing something.
It's building in terms of action and it's building in terms of the threat. It's just a different version of filmmaking. And I'm not saying it's bad for that, or like.
Yeah,
but
it's much better filmmaking.
It's very noticeable. It's just very noticeable, just in juxtaposition to what is today. Because if that film is made today, and I'm not saying it's better, I'm just saying 100% of the time, if that film is made today, it opens with an explosion. You know, it opens with a big alarm going off. We got to figure this out. What's going on? Oh my God, we got to land on this rock.
Up front.
There's gonna be immediate danger that these people are going to be thrusted into. That's gonna help propel the story to go forward. But as they even do their recon, even when they bring that guy back in and he's got the fucking alien on his face and it's down his throat, can you tell me there's a sense of urgency? They have no equipment on. They're just like, oh look. You want to cut his thing? Like, oh, there's acid. Oh,
yeah, there's a sense of urgency. Sigourney Weaver doesn't even want to let him in.
She does it, but yes, and then they do, and then you don't find out like what's actually happening in the film until probably the beginning of the third act, maybe. Like that guy's a robot and what they're really doing. Like it just, for so much of the film, it felt very purposeless. And again, I'm not trying to criticize it. I'm trying to ask if do you think people have the patience for that? Do you?
Oh, well, if that's the question, then no. If that's the question, then hard no. People, this is our point all the time. Audiences today are different than they were 40 years ago, and by different I mean stupider and a lot less patient. And so yeah, if you're just comparing this film the way it's made to the way movies are made today, yeah, it's very different. And people who like the way movies are made today probably won't like this movie when they go back and watch it. They'll think it's slow. They'll think it's pointless. But I don't think it makes sense for you to say that it feels like it's pointless or doesn't have a clear direction when it's so clearly building. Like that's the point of it. It's a slow burn that's just, you said at the beginning, we opened this by saying like you felt uncomfortable the whole time. You felt on the edge of your seat the whole time. That is like powerful, profound filmmaking that is almost completely lost today, where you're gonna get a slow build here, guys. Like you're not getting everything. You can debate whether or not you like that style, but I think that you can't debate like it requires a little, yeah, I don't know. That sounds so pretentious, but it requires a little more intelligence. Like it requires a little patience. It requires you to focus on a film, which is what we used to do pre, fucking YouTube and Facebook. Like that's what we all used to do. You used to sit and watch a movie and be drawn into the world. You don't need an explosion every 30 seconds and to make sure you wake people up. Look away from your phone real quick, watch the movie again.
But there really is no impending, I mean, maybe you can disagree, but it doesn't feel like the film has really like any impending conflict for most of the film, even when the alien gets on board.
Well, that's absurd. You lose me there.
What do they do? They keep it contained and they try and remove it and can't. Like, and then the guy
when it pops acid up and acid starts going through the hole, you don't think there's like.
What did they? Like, but how did they? They just like accepted it. Like they just kind of been like, okay, let's see how far it goes. Okay. Oh yeah, it's be careful, don't touch it. Like. It did like there was no like, all right guys, this is what we got to do. We got like it just continued. The movie just happened. It just happened until the second person died, and then they started to come up with like a plan. It's like, okay, then they started to argue, and then there started to be conflict. It felt like it took an hour plus for there to be any conflict within the film, which is crazy to me. It's just crazy. That's my big thing. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, you don't have to be sorry. Like I too was on this rewatch. I was like, wow. Like we're I paused it for a second or something, and we were more than halfway in, and you hadn't seen the alien yet. Yeah. But I liked it. To me, this movie, and I'm not the first to make this, so this isn't revelatory. This comparison, but it's a lot like Jaws. Where it's the horror is off camera for most of the movie, and it's not till the very end
where you start to see what's been terrorizing people this whole time. And whereas Jaws starts with a shark attack, this movie does not. So I get your point that it is incredibly, it's that slow burn, and it is incredibly uneventful for maybe the first 45 minutes. I think it's an exaggeration to say hour 15, because as soon as they get out of the ship to go explore that alien ship, that to me is like, okay, things are happening now pretty seriously.
The best things about this film are the direction, the cinematography, sound design, and the set design. Like all those things work so well together to get you lost in this. You're on that fucking ship, man. You're on that ship. You're right there. You feel claustrophobic. You feel uncomfortable and tense. All the emotion I get from this film is from those things. Not necessarily the performances, not necessarily for the impending alien attack, not because of the story, because of the craft parts of this film. I get all the feeling that I get from the film. And I think that's awesome. I think that's fucking awesome to be able to do that.
Yeah. Build real sets. I'm gonna keep saying it.
Yeah.
The value is incalculable. That these people are really on this spaceship and not on a fucking blue screen. It just feels better. It feels more real. Outside of the chestburster scene, which I think is pretty much inarguably the most memorable, impactful scene, classic in so many ways, as everyone knows by now, that a lot of those reactions are very real. They didn't tell the cast exactly what was going to happen, and when that thing comes up and blood sprays out and it sprays all over that poor woman, the actress Veronica Cartwright, I think, went into hysterics and fell onto the floor. Like that's wild. I love that kind of I love those kind of stories. I love people being sent into hysterics. But outside of that, one of the most memorable just imagery and scenes to me was at the end during that countdown. As she's that long shot of her creeping through, trying to get back to the shuttle after she fails at reversing the self-destruct mechanism, and there's orange lights everywhere, but the blue strobe cutting that, where it's just orange and blue flashing like crazy. Ooh, that is beautiful. That is like beautiful work. The orange of the fire at the tip of her gun, and the light. Woo, gorgeous.
Yeah. That was not all of that is real. Those lights are like, none of that is added. It would all be added in post, or not all. Yeah. They would accentuate it in post. They would build it for real in post. They might put some practical lights here and there, but like all that shit would just. This was like a real living place, and designed, like expertly designed. That like it was that set design, and it was great.
This might be a slight aside, but and this is a point I'm always making about practical effects and practical sets. I don't know why there aren't more filmmakers today, like truly great filmmakers, which there are, a decent amount. There's a handful of really, really talented filmmakers who I'm sure are just as passionate about their final product, if not more so than we would be or anybody, about something creative like that. I don't know why more of them don't insist on doing more practical effects like this, where that one shot with her with the flamethrower gun and walking through the flashing lights, the smoke hissing, that intensity in a real world location with a real prop, real fire, is so much better. It looks so much better, and it connects the viewer so much more than if they did it today and the backdrop was blue screen and the flame was computerized and all the lights were computerized. But almost all filmmakers today just do that. Which, sure, I know what you're going to say. It's cheaper, or, probably cheaper to just have them do it all in post. Maybe it's easier. Maybe it's simpler in terms of insurance. Like, we don't have real fire on set, blah, 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 blah.
All of those things are correct.
There are a lot of great filmmakers who just continue to make to do fake shit. And I don't know why, because it would seem like the natural evolution of effects and sets in film would be to take this great ingenuity that came out of the 80s especially, of practical effects and real world shit, and once you get that crazy computerized ability from the 90s, combine those things and make brilliant, brilliant things. But now it's just completely CGI and often looks fake. Why aren't there more filmmakers that are like, I'm not gonna do that? I don't understand.
For the reasons you named just now.
But that's my point, is like, these people are talented and amazing. They have to care as much as I do. Like, why do I care more? Why? Like, I would never sacrifice that stuff.
We'll get a director. We need to get a director on the show. We need to get an A-list. Let's get Scorsese on the show.
Yeah, make a call, somebody. Yeah, well, that's what made me think so much about, I thought so much as we watched Children of Men and had that discussion where it's like, this is a huge action movie from not that long ago, from 15 years ago, that is it almost entirely practical.
Yeah.
Like, and so much thought and effort obviously went into the details of all that stuff. So I just don't know why that isn't more the norm. Because that's more impressive. That's what people like more. You're going to connect more to that. I don't know. Sorry, this is such old guy, like, fucking practical effects. But, like, it makes the film better objectively, except in very rare circumstances. Okay.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Her best scene, the scene I love the most, is the scene where I think it's after the second person dies and things start to pick up a little bit more. They're all in that one room. I guess that they eat in that room. I'm not sure what that room is, but they're all just kind of that congregation room. And they're arguing, and she is beginning to really put her foot down and take control.
Yeah.
And the camera just stays on her. She begins to take command of the ship, and she like barks at him and yells at him and starts to put people in their place.
You what? You're still collating? I find that hard to believe.
And that sort of transition where she was like following orders and very protocol driven to where now she's in charge, that shift I thought was really well performed.
Yeah.
From her.
Yeah. So what I think is fascinating about this film is this film to me is a perfect example to look back on today in culture and society today, where there's so much where we like we rip on some aspects of Wonder Woman.
Can I be like you someday?
You can be anything you want to be.
The Endgame and Infinity War with the fucking she's not alone.
Don't worry.
She's got help.
Or like, all the women are here, like these fucking just cramming down your throat, right? Like just cramming it down your throat. Like, look at what we're doing. We're progressive. We're the feminists. Like all that stuff, which is like, but this is that, but like subtle. Like it doesn't have to, and that's why Ripley is remembered, in my humble opinion, as the leader of this of this genre, right?
Yeah.
It's like because because it doesn't pander to you. The way they do it now is so overly fucking pandering. Like, you fucking woman, hear me roar. Look at all of us together. We support each other. But it's like, no, this movie just shows you without it having to be a talking point. And I thought what I noticed so interestingly in this time is there's 7 human characters, or humanoid characters. The first 4 that die are the 4 white guys. The 4 white guys die, and you got a black dude and 2 women that are left as the 3 survivors. And I thought, like, wow, that is great. Like, but not like in a preachy, shitty, over the top, heavy-handed way. It's just this is how it is. And then there's more to discuss on that subject too. But what were you gonna say?
Well, I don't remember the actor's name if you said it, but I thought his performance, I thought he was great. I just loved his character. I loved his performance. I thought he was second to Sigourney Weaver. I enjoyed him the most, really. But in terms of performance, I thought he was great. And I was like, fuck, he's gonna die first. That was the first thing that I thought of, like, just because I've seen it so many other times that the black guy dies first.
You three, follow me. Ain't that a bitch?
And I was so pleasantly surprised, exactly for what you're saying, that 2 women and a black guy are the surviving members of this horrible.
Especially in 1979.
In 1970, like, that seems, 1, super progressive, and 2, I couldn't agree more with you that it doesn't need to spell it out. It is the old adage of show and don't tell. Good filmmaking is about showing and letting me tell myself, essentially. Let me make that connection on my own. You just show it to me. You don't have to have a big dramatic moment where it's like, I am a woman, I'm a man, I'm gonna do, like, you don't need that moment. Just let her do it. Let her be the one who survives this thing. And that speaks louder than anything you can write. Her killing the alien is better than anything you can write, any dialogue you can write. Let her just fucking kill the alien.
Yeah. If it was made today, there would literally be a scene where she's like, you know, I'm a woman, and I can do just the same as anything as you can do.
100%.
Like, there would literally be that dialogue.
Yeah. I don't know if we can air any of that.
No, of course we can. That's totally fair to say.
Okay.
That's the same. I would say that about anything. Where it's just like, don't pander. Don't disrespect your audience by feeling like you have to tell everything. That could be anything. It doesn't have to be political or you know, identity politic related. It's anything. But sort of to expand on that, which I remember reading about before, but I don't remember ever getting super into it, is the undercurrents of sexuality in this film. I don't know how much you looked into that, but I think this might kind of go hand in hand if this is the case. Is like, I'm so fascinated by this, like how much of this is intentional. And some of you who know this better can probably help me understand. But there's so much speculation and reading into a lot of the imagery of the film, and that it in of itself is it's very intentionally, that it's like, it's almost like a, I don't know how quite to phrase this, but like a rape adjacent film, in the sense that the imagery of the alien is very penetrative, and you know, the mouth sticks out and that's how it kills you, is it penetrates you, and the face sucker grabs on and penetrates you and actually literally lays an egg inside of you, and the chestburster bursting forth is like a pregnancy. And so that this film, at least somewhat intentionally, is to put that kind of rape revenge tale, but it's about like men. It's like now men are getting violated, orally raped. Men are the ones that deal with the results of that act, this bursting forth of this creature, and then the alien itself being more of a feminine energy. Like the body type of stuff is a little more feminine, and she is penetrating and taking that, like without consent, obviously, taking these things from these men. And that's another reason why the 4 white, I would think of connecting those things, 4 white dudes, the traditional protagonists in films up to this point, are all killed first.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really fascinating.
I think it's fascinating.
That lends credence to the theory that a lot of that imagery is very intentionally sexualized.
Yeah. Yeah. I had not heard that, obviously, as uneducated as I am. But when you say it and you put it in that context, like, man, it just makes me like this film even that much more. Like, that's amazing. That's just like an amazing, if that's the truth, because I have no idea if they're like, yeah, that's like, this is the film within the film we're telling. And that's so much more of a powerful story. For me to get it in this conversation, reading about it online, going back and thinking about it, that's going to resonate with me and be more effective in my life if part of your goal is to empower women, for a way to dumb that statement down, then that Avengers moment where just 4 women get together and be like, we're all together on this, right? High five, you can do anything. that's so much more surface level, and like the detail and that imagery gets in almost, it's almost like Inception, gets implanted in me, and I'm gonna take that into the world. It's so much better. It's so much better if that's part of your goal. So I'm blown away by that, and it makes sense. It makes total sense. Even the only time I kind of thought about that was that after like 3 minutes of that first opening shot, as you sort of drift through the whole ship, the way those things open, those sleeping pods or whatever, in my head I was like, is that a vagina? Like, is that like, it was like that kind of felt just very feminine in general. How they just delicately and quietly opened, and then these people just kind of arose from it. That was the only thing that I noticed in that sense. But
little Man of Steel-esque with all the penises and vaginas.
Yeah. But that's great. Man, I hope that's true.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And I think that like, it just goes to show, like, the shit I'm always harping on about, like, care and effort into, like, the layers of a story is all we get today, almost all we get today, is just so superficial and so stupid. And I say that to be funny, and I call everybody stupid to be funny, but you are. but it's like, that's the stuff, like, that's what I, as a creator, as filmmakers ourselves, want to aspire to, is you can tell a story that, if you look at it one way, it's an alien horror story. It's as Gene Siskel said, it's a haunted house in space.
What we really have here is basically the haunted house film, only instead of a wild creature running around in a haunted house, we got a wild creature running around in a spaceship.
But if you look at it this way, it's also a commentary on this. And if you look at it this way, it's also supporting, like, turning this female victimhood trope completely on its head, which ties in completely with the story itself, which is the woman being the survivor and being the one to outsmart and outpower the deadly villain. But visually, just visually, we're gonna create this whole thing to support that. Like, that's just fucking great. And that's what films can and should do. Like, those are the great films. And there used to be a little more common to just be like, no, you have to put effort into every aspect of the film to make it all make sense, to be memorable, to like. That's why I hate every new movie that comes out that we talk about on this show, which I feel bad about. But like, just try, come on.
Yeah. Everything in your story has to mean something. Every single thing, every visual, every shot, every line of dialogue, everything has to equal something, and they don't anymore, and they don't evermore. But I can see that in this film. Again, I talk about the things in the beginning of the episode for obviously way too long, but I said all those things just because there's such a stark difference. But I 1000% know that there is no accidents in this film. The story, the issues that I even say about the story is on purpose. And I'm not even want to justify them as issues. I'm just noticing them, and I'm talking about them with you. That's the only point of that. Everything is on purpose in this film, and that is clear as day. There is nothing that is an accident. There's not a light that's on, that's an accident. There's not a side glance, that's an accident. A pensive moment, that's an accident. Every single thing that happens is purposeful and has meaning, and maybe has multiple layers of meaning. That's how much credit I give this film and this filmmaker for doing. I know that, and I can see that. It's tangible.
Yeah. It's incredible. I'm always curious just in terms of the creative process, because as I sit down, when I try to create my own stories or write scripts, like you know, do they have the idea for the story first, right? Did they think, let's make an alien movie that's dark and gritty, and then someone comes in later and goes, well, let's also make it like this really cool, like female-powered film, and let's also use the imagery of the aliens to support that in a really profound, like sexually violent against men way to help support that? Or did it start with someone going, let's tell a really female-powered sci-fi, and then, okay, how can we build the story
how do we get
around
there?
that? Like, all of that I'm fascinated by. So those of you who know more about this film, maybe you can enlighten us. But I think that's a really fascinating conversation, because when I sit down, like I said, to write my own stories, I generally will start with the story idea and then go back and be like, well, where can I build a theme into this?
Yeah.
Which I might argue I don't like, it isn't good. Like, I don't love that about myself. I'd rather have something I want to say and then build a story around that. But generally, I'm a story guy. And so I come up with a story and then I go, okay, how can I actually make this mean something beyond just this story? So I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting.
It's super interesting. Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the creative process. This is a stupid rant that you can immediately cut. But